Welcome in to the DNVR Rapid Show AM. What do we call this? DNVR at breakfast? We have after night. What is this? DNVR?
Pids brunch.
Pids brunch?
I don't know. Is it too early for brunch? 9:30?
It's never too early for a mimosa.
Okay.
Especially if you're an alcoholic like me at this point in my life.
That's not true.
Here I am, joined by Mr. Duane Brown. I did not know how to transition from that brunch talk. So here I am, Mr. Yahir. And I'm joined by Downtown Brown? Downtown Duane Brown?
Yeah, whatever. That, Duane, they all work.
You can clearly tell I am not very comfortable in my hosting duties today. But I do have a lot of energy, which is going to take me a long way today. So today we have actually a big show for everybody because we just got news that Jasper Löffelsend, I think that's how you say his name, is coming to the Rapids thanks to Matty Scoops. Matt Pollard had it first. We're also going to talk a little bit about what has pushed the Rapids to become such big spenders this offseason and try to correct course from everything they kind of didn't have last year. And we'll also talk about where do these moves stack up with the rest of the league and what this means for the Rapids going forward, maybe going forward in their approach in trying to make the team better. So first off, let's start off with Jasper. Jasper Löffelsend, midfielder from Salt Lake City, fake Salt Lake City, is now a Colorado Rapid, and he's probably going to be playing that 6th role. What's your initial thoughts on that, Duane?
Hey man, anytime we can steal from the evil empire over there in Salt Lake is a good thing. A couple things I like about him. Not that I'm super familiar with him. One, he seems to be a very gritty guy. He got suspended last year in March.
Yep, he did.
For showing a little bit too much aggression. Not saying I want that while he's in Burgundy, but I like the fact that he seems to be a very gritty.
Last year was dirty. This year is going to be aggression.
Well, we'll take it. So, I do like that he's got a little bit of that. Like when we had Chris Armas, he said we need a little bit of FU on the squad, and maybe Jasper has a little bit of that in there. So I think that's good in the midfield. I don't know where he's going to be in the midfield. Maybe he's at the 6. Maybe he's paired up with Ronan somehow. Yesterday the talk was he's kind of this is a depth signing, but I don't know, man. Like he could be, I think he could be starting just as many games as he's coming in to fill in. So I'm looking at it as not just a depth piece, but certainly a strong piece we can use. And then the last part is what our guy Mitch, who's out today, not feeling well. So send all your good vibes to Mitch. He posted some of his stats, and we talked about this a ton last season. And that is the fact that last season... Oh, I see Mitch is in the comments too.
Yep.
That's exactly what I was getting ready to say for you, Mitch. Last season we were awful in tackles.
Yep.
Mitch posted the stats yesterday. This guy can tackle. He alone could bring the numbers just way up for the Rapids, and I think that is a key piece that we were missing. Clearly the front office knows that we were very weak in tackling, and so they bring in a gritty, aggressive guy who's not afraid to take on the opposition and get in there and get dirty with the tackles, and get the ball. So, and good clearances as well. Take-ons is super high. So it's that piece that we didn't have last year. Mm-hmm. And I think that is, in a defense that started to struggle this could be a piece that starts to kind of turn the tides a little bit, which is great.
Kind of off of that, and I'm gonna steal this take from the Pope of Commerce City.
Dave, let's go.
He said something a couple weeks back that's kind of kept with me a lot, and it was, if you get a true 6, you're gonna actually get 2 sightings in one, because in that case you can move Ronan to the correct spot and you can have him play where you want him, which is that 8 role, that kind of pushing high up, where he can kind of get back and be a little gritty at times, but he's more of a playmaker. And that's the real important thing to me, that if you get the 6, if you get somebody that can come in and really be that gritty player that can do all the dirty work, it's going to free up Ronan so much.
For sure.
And it's going to let Cole also be able to push forward and be the Cole that we expect him to be. He just got an extension. He's a U22 initiative now, which it just goes to show how much the end of last year impacted the front office and everybody around the league. Because even when we talked to Chris Armas, talked to Omir, and I've talked to some people over here and there, they're really impressed by Cole, and they think Cole can be the next big thing. He's the best thing since sliced bread, honestly. And that's why I think bringing in a true 6 is going to free up that midfield a lot more and allow the key pieces we have to be able to create, be able to have more scoring opportunities, because they don't have more on their plate than they need to have. And that's the really exciting thing about Jasper. While I was looking at him, I went back, saw some film from last year and the year before, and the biggest thing about Jasper is that he's a true 6. He knows where to be at the right time. He has a really quick step, and he's really good at interceptions. That's my favorite part about him, interceptions. That's one of the things that Ronan lacked, was positional awareness on the defensive end.
Yeah.
He didn't know where to be, and he got beat a lot of the times. But now with a guy that knows where to be at the right time and how to cut passing lanes, it's going to open up that defense as well. It's going to allow Keegan to push up a little bit more. It might even allow Bombi to go wandering in a John Stones role, where Pep has him just running up and seeing if he can do anything fun. And that's what we want, right? We want exciting football, and a guy like Jasper is going to do the dirty work so the rest of the players can have that fun and have the creative chances and just push forward. One key thing to the breaking news yesterday for Matt was that he called it depth.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel?
Well, I mean, that's what I was saying earlier, is that, if that's a depth piece, holy crap, man. I mean, that's awesome depth piece to have. I guess it's a depth piece because we have, a lot of people in the midfield right now. But I think he will be starting, this year. I don't think he's a bench guy by any means. But like we talked about already, when we hit summer in June, July, that schedule is going to get so crazy that, if your bench guys are at the level that Jasper is, man, we're in pretty good shape for a really rough stretch over June and July. And that's the forward thinking of building a team that can last throughout the entire season, not just start off strong or, claw their way into the playoffs at the very end, but a squad that's built to play every match throughout the whole season without, falling apart. We've experienced it over the last 2 seasons. Injuries have devastated this club. There didn't really seem to be the folks who could jump up and fill in those spots to keep us running at, full cylinders. This seems like the signing that's going to be able to do that, because if he's starting and our depth is like Ronan because he's getting some rest, but he's still on the bench, that's awesome. If it's just, you look at our midfield, and if somebody's getting a day off, or at least bench time to rest because it's been 3 games and 5 days, then we're looking pretty good. So if you want to call it a depth piece, cool, I'm fine with that. If you look at him more as a potential opening day starter opposite Ronan or whatever, cool, I'm down with that also. Again, it gets back to like what Mitch was saying
I'm sorry, guys. I'm just having issues with my computer right now.
I'm just trying to give you time.
Yeah,
I'm
Duane is cooking right now because I'm struggling with my computer. That's about to die and my charger's falling over and over.
For those of you that are listening versus watching,
it's a Monday. What else
Yahir
can you
has
do?
plugged in his laptop at least 5 times in the last minute.
It's a Monday. There's nothing else I can do.
Yeah. So, Chris just stated in the comments, I feel like every signing is an upgrade at this point.
Yeah,
and that's true.
That's insane because, like, we can look back, which we will talk about. Zack Steffen comes over in a zero money, basically a free transfer.
Wild.
Insane. You get Mihailovic for a club record $3 million, but it's way less than the 4.5 you're going to pay for Navarro if he was going to break the record. You trade Gutman, who probably didn't want to be here. Respectfully, he was really nice about it. Hey, man, I'd like to go home.
Sure.
And you get Miguel Navarro, a younger left back who's a little bit more stable defensively. In my opinion, that's an upgrade to what you actually needed. You bring in Omir Fernandez, who's immediately an upgrade to any winger that you have.
Yep.
Like, how can you not be excited, right? Like, and then you look at the backup goalkeeper now. With the news that just broke right before the show, Adam Beaudry just signed a first-team contract as a 17-year-old. How big is it that he gets to learn under Zack Steffen, a Premier League goalkeeper that's played at the highest level, has been on the national teams, done the whole shebang, and now Adam gets to learn under one of the more talented players in the U.S. pool?
It's amazing. I mean, the thing is, like, Beaudry's already good, but he's young. So this is a young player that we all know from watching, from reading about, from hearing from the club about. This is a young goalkeeper with loads of potential. He's super young, and part of the curiosity, the worry with the young goalkeeper is when he develops through the academy, it's not just the skills, but is he physically going to grow enough to fit into the size to be, to back up those skills? And, we saw over the summer, Beaudry was walking by at one of the matches we went to for the R2 matches, and we were like, whoa, like, Beaudry grew up, and so he's starting to fill out as a young man. He's starting to grow into that size that you're hoping your goalkeepers will be. You pair that up with the already like inherent talent and skill that he has, and now you've got a mentor and Zack Steffen, who has international experience, who has U.S. men's national team experience. To partner with Beaudry's youth national team experience, man, it is a great tutelage system for Beaudry. So we've all been high on Beaudry forever. We've been waiting for this move. It's just been a matter of when, because he's so young. Now it's happening, and we've got the perfect mentor in front of him to help him along. Awesome. Just an awesome move today.
Yeah, I mean, the Rapids are absolutely cooking right now. There's no other way to put it. Honestly, like, you signed Cole to an extension. You have him here to 2027. You have Beaudry now on your first team. You got players like Ollie Löffelsend, who Ollie last year killed it in R2.
Yep.
Now they're your depth pieces, along with players like Wayne Frederick in the midfield. Like, it's really hard not to start seeing how this team is being formed.
I mean,
and like how excited. And then you have
Djordje.
Stuart Baines.
Stuart
Baines. The highest rated player out of the draft is now on your team. People compare him a lot to Tajon Buchanan. If you use Tajon Buchanan, he's going to be playing for a Milan team in 10 years, in 5 years. Like, how are you not excited about a player like that when everybody compares them? Not just because they're Canadian wingers, but because they play very similar. And speed demons. It gets so excited very quickly. One thing I wanted to bring up with you real quick in this one segment, I told you I was going to spring it on you, so it's not really a spring.
Surprises.
Tom Bogert put out his depth chart of how things look for the Rapids right now.
Okay. I've not seen it, so.
So there's a few interesting things about this one. Players like Illich and Tavares have question marks next to their names. Meaning that, are they on the move? Now, that's not the interesting part to me. The interesting part is, because we kind of already know that they're looking at maybe getting rid of one or two of both of them.
Sure.
The really interesting part to me is that Lewis, who has been rumored all offseason and at the end of last year that he was going to be gone, doesn't have a question mark around his name. Do you think Jonathan Lewis is going to be a part of this team next year?
I have no idea, and it's just Johnny Lewis is. It's a weird thing because when he came to the Rapids, like, I was one of the biggest J-Lou guys out there. I mean, his ability to fly up the side. I used to laugh when defenders would come at him, and he just didn't care. Like, he would just break ankles and just go right. It wasn't like a Nicholson thing. Like a Nicholson, he's like a dump truck with no brakes, right? Nicholson would just run into the defense and like hope to get through. And whereas Johnny Lewis was just so skillful when he first came on board, and just was not afraid of anybody. Such an exciting guy to watch on the outside, on the wing. And injuries last year, other players coming in and out on the wings, a squad that has not been good for 2 years. Yep. When the squad's bad, typically the parts and pieces also start to go downhill. And then it's like you just stop hearing about Johnny Lewis, which is weird because he's such a good player. But it's just like, I haven't, no disrespect, but I've not thought about Johnny Lewis in weeks until you just said his name. And I'm like, oh, yeah, because I kind of figured Johnny Lewis was probably moving out, So I think we all expected, or some still expect him to move on. But we know that this squad loves speed. Johnny still has speed. He's still under contract also. Yeah. There may not be takers, to what the Rapids want to get back for him,
He was also kind of knocked up the last couple of years.
Yeah, like last year he was injured.
He's had a lot of little, like, not major injuries, but little ones, kind of like Jack Price a couple years ago, that just kind of kept keeping him out and never really got into rhythm.
Yep.
And you saw him get into rhythm early in the year last year when he did take the ball and just dominated those U.S. Open Cup games. And how fun it was to celebrate Jonathan Lewis being an Open Cup goal-scoring machine for a while.
Yeah.
So that was my biggest question, just because I don't know if Jonathan Lewis will be here. I've heard so many rumors about him being on the move, from going to the Premier League, for maybe finding a new home in the MLS, that at this point I don't know what the plan is with him.
Yeah, I mean, and my question was going to be kind of what we see in the comments as well from Imweeth, is that, does Lewis fit within the system that Armas, wants to run? And he mentioned on the show about running more of an inverted winger type style versus the last few years of just running as fast as you can down the sideline, until you hit the goal line and then kick it and pray that someone is in the middle to get that. And I think we're going to be more intentional on offense now,
of course,
versus crossing our fingers and hoping things happen. So, what does Johnny look like as someone who does start to, instead of fly down the ends, start to convert and maybe go a little more towards the center and race down to Navajo, in the center, So I don't know. I don't know what he would look like in that system, because I've only seen him in the previous Rapid system, which I'm not sure is good for most wingers, not just Johnny.
We haven't seen a winger thrive here because of
that system. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, maybe that is the rebirth of Johnny Lewis, is giving him a system with which he can actually get after it again, versus just running really fast, which I think has been the Rapids' way for the last couple of years.
Yeah, again, just that was the most interesting part to me about that depth chart. Having the question marks are players that we already kind of knew were on the outs a little bit. Like, we kind of already heard a little bit of rumblings about Tavares, that he might not be around for a while. It didn't really work out at the end of last year. We heard about Illich as well, that after getting a Steffen, a new high-end starter, Illich might not want to stay here in Colorado. He might also want to look for a new opportunity. But not having a question mark around Lewis, to me, after we heard all those rumors, was the most interesting part.
The other thing about Tavares is that Djordje was shown in the hype video holding the number 10 jersey. Yeah. So someone had mentioned, I don't know if it was Rabbi or somebody, like, Tavares must have, sold his number to, Djordje, or is it that that may not be his number because I don't know what the plans are for him. So I thought that was interesting as well. Just seeing that, normally we're all asking, oh, what number is the new guy going to be? And we wait for a while, and it was like immediate with him showing the 10.
I mean, record transfer kind of had to be.
Yeah, he gets what he wants.
He's the 10. And also, Tom mentioned that they want to play Mihailovic at the left wing, which I think is perfect. Yeah. I thought I would have preferred him at the 10, because I think Bassett's a better as an 8. But Mihailovic on the wing makes sense of how Armas wants to play. Yeah, he wants to play inverted wingers. He wants to play guys. And I have the question in the comments from M. Wealth. Also, does Gavon fit that system? He does. Gavon is better down the middle than he is down the wing. And
you were beating that drum all season last season.
I've been advocating for him to be at the 10, more of a depth piece, or have him push in more than actually play the wing. It never came to fruition because I think he has more skill, more tiki-taka to kind of get it in and out of tight spaces than a lot of the players on Rapids had last year. So having him play that way, I think is going to be a lot better. But I think Gavon's going to be a key piece next year. I think Kimani Stewart-Baines is going to be a key piece, along with Calvin Harris. Of the 3 guys that were here last year, I think Harris, Gavon are going to be, and Laraz are going to be guys that are really going to shine this year, especially with the depth pieces coming in and helping out a lot. And yes, Bogert does have the Rapids playing a 4-2-3-1, and that's exactly what Armas likes to play. That's the Red Bull way. You need two defensive midfielders /8s that can push the ball forward as soon as they get it. And with a guy like Ronan and Löffelsend and maybe another 6, that's exactly what's going to happen. You're going to have a lot more guys just turning and getting the ball out of here quickly. Okay, so continuing, I'm horrible at transitions. If you haven't noticed, I'm absolute shite at it.
What a transition! I disagree.
Yeah, I'm shy. So let's continue. Oh, dude, today I have energy. I'm okay, guys, but not all the way I gotta be. Give me 1 quick minute. We don't have any ad partners for the day, but we do want to talk about why this is all happening. Why are we getting so many more people, so many more transfers coming to the Rapids? We have our K-Max out here making fun of me because I'm transition master. And one big thing I want to ask Duane, trying to get back on track, just going to ignore that.
You're going to punt to me.
Yeah. How much do you think the protest from C38 and the fans and all the negative Twitter comments from all the way from Hercules to the Cooligans to everybody talking about what a shit show it was last year?
Sure.
How much do you think that affected the Rapids' vision of, or how do I say this? How they approached this offseason?
I do think it made an impact. I think it's one of many parts that brought out the change, right? I mean, we know, talking to players last year, even talking to the front office last year, everybody was upset with how last year went, with how the year before last year went. So I think everybody wanted changes. Everybody was frustrated. We always wonder how much do the Cronkies pay attention to the Rapids. C38 and supporters, both in and outside of C38, showed up and then didn't show up, packed up, and walked out.
Was that is that one of the most impactful moments of the Rapids history in the last 10 years?
Oh man, I don't know.
Or is that up to like what happens going forward?
Big group of years. I think it's super impactful, and here's why. Last year especially, you saw a lot of supporters groups getting involved and throwing fits or whatever you want to call it with their teams. A lot of the ones that caught the attention at the beginning of the year were supporters groups yelling at players, players yelling back at supporters groups. All of this stuff was on TV. I thought it was a bad look. It's not that, obviously supporters groups need to voice their concerns and frequently become the voice, the representatives of the fans to the club. So I'm all for it, but it didn't come off well. Like it wasn't a good look for a lot of those supporters groups and those clubs. That happened a few instances last year. With C38, it wasn't like whining and crying to some players and then getting into like verbal altercations, which is not a look. It was a look of solidarity. Like C38 prepped, they planned to make a statement. It wasn't a reactionary scream and yell, temper tantrum. It was we are upset. We've let the club know we're upset. The club knew it. And then they planned, they organized, and they made a statement, not only of the walkout, but of the banners and the statement that was left behind, I think was the key piece to that walkout. The walkout was there, but the cameras aren't going to show that. But the cleverness of C38 to leave those banners in an empty section was brilliant, because the cameras have to point at the net. That's where C38 sits. I thought it was a brilliant move. I'm not saying that's the one and only thing that has created this tidal wave of change. I think it's organizational. I think it's from the front office. I think it's frustration within the players themselves. I think a lot of it has to do with C38. I think it has to do with ticket sales. I think it has to do with just people in general being upset. But that walkout and those banners being on TV, the extra coverage with Apple TV, then it starts to go international, right? You get soccer news, not just outside of Colorado, but outside of the U.S., showing those banners. Now, Kroenke is finally getting attention for the Rapids, but not the kind of attention that they want.
All the way from Victory Crossing.
Yes.
That got the Commerce City mayor dragged him for Victory Crossing.
It was just that was kind of the penultimate move by C38 that everybody saw. It got attention. And once it got the attention, now people are paying attention to the Rapids, but not for the reasons of, oh man, the Rapids are really playing well, because they're not. Yep. And then it became the Victory Crossing thing. And then it became the mayor of the city where the stadium is calling out the ownership. And so it was, I do think it impacted. This is a very long answer to your question, but it's because there's so many pieces. And when I say this stuff about C38, I mean that as a tip of the cap. Great job, C38. Yeah. I mean, you did what supporters groups are supposed to do. And we thank you for that. Like, you did a great job. It was organized. It looked good. It was a middle finger without being like a straight painting a middle finger on the field.
Without being, honestly, without being rude. Like, and that's the thing. Like, it was an impactful walkout, super impactful.
But it wasn't classless.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing. It felt a little bit, not to the same extent, of course, but to save the crew.
Sure.
It felt a little bit of like, hey, man, we want better. Like, just because you think we're in a smaller city, which Denver isn't, like, but you think we're in a smaller market. You think
Small
you can
soccer market,
exactly. Yeah. You think you can do whatever the hell you want with us. That's not true. Like, there's people that care about their squad, people that care about this team. And you know what? I want to give credit to the front office for taking the frustration from the fans and doing something about it. Not just kind of being like, well, what do you want me to do about it? No, they're actively overhauling the roster that was not good the last couple of years. They also, I want to give them credit for this, and it's for not taking down any of the posters for the rest of the season. It's so easy to be like, it's our stadium, we're taking them down, we have a bad look. How many times do you see it around sports where the front office does the exact opposite
They clean
move?
it out, yeah.
and it goes unnoticed, or people get mad for 2 months and then it's over. But no, the front office took it on the chin and they're like, "You're right. We apologize. Now, no matter what we say, it doesn't matter. Now we got to go out there and show with actions." And they are. They truly, truly are. Well, from the beginning of the offseason, when you bring in a guy like Omir, who is, when we talk to him, he's like, "I have high hopes of winning trophies."
Yep.
He got told on the dream. You bring in a Premier League level goalkeeper, backup at least, but then Zack Steffen, here he is. You being Mihailovic, who could have been MVP a couple years ago when he had that incredible season in Montreal. You bring in a guy now like Löffelsend, who's going to be a backup. Like, how can you not see that this front office heard you? It cared about what the fans think. It cared about how bad things are going for the club on the pitch. And they're like, we can't fix everything. We're not in charge of the money when it comes to fixing the dick. We can't invest money that isn't ours into this great organization, but we can invest into the squad and try to put the product on the pitch as good as we can, try to get the best product, and that's exactly what they're doing.
Yep, and they've really this offseason, which, you know, yes, we're getting close to training season, but it doesn't feel like the offseason has been very long.
No.
It feels like it's gone, mainly because we're making so many moves, it's gone by very quickly. But in this short amount of time, we hire a new coach, and then the club is very intentional about getting Chris Armas out with the supporters group, immediately out with C38 at the Celtic, Omir signing his contract there with the supporters group, I thought was a very cool move. Having Chris then come the very next day to be on our show, and then having, players, front office, coach, everybody hang out downstairs at DNVR bar, just to be in the public, to make it known, we hear you, we're making moves, but not just signing people, but we're making the moves to connect with the fans, to make sure we know as fans and supporters that they exist, right? Outside of their offices. So I think it's been great work from C38. I think it's been really great work from the front office and from the club. I'm not saying that everything is fixed with the Rapids. There are clearly a lot of things that still are on the list of things we want, things that we want to fix, whether it's things in the stadium, things in that area around the stadium, in Commerce City.
Crossing. I'm not even going to fake that.
And there's still some signings I think we'd all like to see too. But whereas we normally hear crickets and not a lot of anything from Dick's Sporting Goods Park, now, like outside today, very windy day in Colorado, is a natural physical sign that the winds of change are blowing at Dick's Sporting Goods Park. That change is not just coming, but it's here. And you can look at this roster we've been talking about and see that already.
Real quick before we continue into this conversation, drop a like. There's 20 of you guys in here. Drop a like. That helps us out. It kind of helps the algorithm get us to more Rapids fan or a Pit curious person. It's always good to have more people in the chat, more friends. Stephen Newhall says, if we made 0 additional changes, would we call this offseason a success, or do we need more? And I think, to me, it's a success. Because I think right now you can field a competitive team that can compete for a playoff spot and even maybe a home playoff spot. And that's exactly where the Rapids weren't last year or the year before.
Yep.
They weren't even near any of that. They weren't close to. They can even smell they can even smell the Galaxy's butt at the end of last year, honestly.
Yep.
Well, to me, it's already a success because you bring in high quality players. Very little to me can be done to ruin this offseason. I don't know what can ruin this offseason right now. Maybe a bad uniform, but even then, it's like it doesn't matter. I think if the Rapids today said, "Hey, we're calling it a quits. I think we're good for the season," I think they're good to go because they still have Rapids 2 players that are really good in Remy and God, I forgot my favorite player's name.
Your
On Rapids
favorite?
too.
I don't know who your favorite player.
Japanese.
Yosuke?
Yosuke, there we go. He follows me on Twitter, and I forgot his name.
Not anymore. He doesn't.
Not anymore. But I think the Rapids have built enough depth, have built enough quality starters. There's still a couple of positions I would like to see improved, like that 6th spot, that left back, maybe another winger for depth would be really good. But I think as far as being done for, if they're done for today, I think I wouldn't be mad at the roster.
No, I agree with you. It's look, the Rapids are not they're not a team that goes out and makes the sexy splash signings every year. We're not LAFC. Those teams that can do that. We are a much more small market feel team. We don't have owners who throw money at the team like other clubs. So some of these signings, I think, do have some splashiness to it. Obviously, with Steffen, and Djordje coming in, we've got men's national team players on board. That's a bit of a splash. Some names that are known outside of Colorado. So there are a few splashy signings, but there are signings that are just good signings. Yeah. There were so many holes to fill on this squad this year, and we've legit filled most of those, if not all of those. I know everybody's clamoring for a 6. I'm still winning a 6 also. Like, I'm in that group. Yeah, not so much. From our conversations, like, there's different ways that we can go about that.
I just think they have the talent on the team to fill the role of a 6, because I think people get too attached to lineups and how they look on a paper. And
Sure.
I'm about that too, because like I used to be that way too. So I understand where that comes from, because people feel, but I think you have players on this roster, especially how this roster has been built out the last couple of years, that you can have a 6 without really having a 6.
Sure.
Which is interesting, but I think it is possible. Maybe more of a, I brought him up again, John Stones and Bombi to me are very comparable, because they're both, Bombi played the 6, but you can play him as a center back and he can push all the way back. And with a guy like Löffelsend, who's a lot more defensive aware than Ronan, I think you can play both of them together and push both of them up and have Bombi right behind them and help out in that 6th position as a playmaker. And I think that's kind of how you can fill that role together. I think it's a very possible. I know the Rapids are against that more than anything, but who knows? Maybe with Chris Armas, there's a new vision on it.
Yeah.
Well, at the end of the day, the 6 to me, it's a position of need, but not of dire need.
I think Rapids fans are really dialed in on a 6, because the last generation of the Rapids had Jack Price.
Yep.
As not just a player in the number 6 position, but a guy who was a field commander, somebody who is yelling out where to put the ball. He's the ball distributor to get the process going back down the pitch. That was so much of the identity of the Colorado Rapids over the last 5-6 years, that number 6 position is such a integral part of who the Rapids have been. And so we expect that, and we expect to have that field commander, that on the field general who's going to call out and distribute and tell guys where to go and set. That it's weird to not have that. I will say that when we didn't have Jack, it didn't look good. Right, the last 2 years,
but that's Jack, right?
Yeah, of course it's the quality of Jack, but I'll throw it out to everybody this way: the reason it looked so bad without Jack is because that was still the system that we were playing. Yep. We were playing a Jack Price 6 field commander system without Jack Price. Yep. Now we don't have Jack Price, and so we are restructuring how we play that midfield and defense without Jack Price versus planning it for him and then him not being here. So while we're used to that 6 and we're all clamoring for it, be open to the idea that, our beautiful man, Jack Price, who I am bummed that is not here, but he's not with the squad anymore. So we're building it in a post Jack Price era.
Exactly.
so to speak.
And this is kind of getting back to the original question of why the change? How much did all this losing and fan outrage affect the Rapids? It affected them a lot to the point that they got rid of, in my opinion, 2 club legends in Rubio and Jack, 2 guys that were beloved by all fans. They said, you know what, guys, we need something new. To the point where they went to go get a new core. Essentially, they bought themselves a brand new core of maybe like 25 and younger, except for Steffen. Steffen's 28, but that's like 22 in goalkeeper years. So you get Steffen, a 28-year-old. You have Bombi, a 23-year-old. Then you go up into your midfield. Ronan, I believe, is 26 this year. Bassett is 21 or 22 this year. Because he just signed his U22.
Well, he's U22, so I think he's 21. But the fact is, young. I looked at that yesterday, and I was like, holy crap, Cole Bassett's still U22?
Exactly.
I can't believe that.
And then you go up a little bit more into the forwards, and you got Mihailovic at 25, and you got Omir at 23, 24 years old. You went out there and bought yourself a brand new core of young players that can be with the Rapids for the next 3 to 5 years and ball out.
Yeah.
Does this sound familiar to what other teams do constantly? You look at a Portland Timbers. They had Raul Diaz. They had Nicolas Ladero. They had all these guys for years on years. And they were a powerhouse for so long. They started to lose some of that edge. So what do? They go get an Obed Vargas. They go get a Leo Chu. They go get a Nohu. And now they restocked all over again, and it's a brand new nucleus with the Jordan Morris and Roldan and they're still trying to help out the young kids. Doesn't this sound like what the Rapids are trying to do a little bit?
Yeah, and I'm not sure what the numbers are because I've not thought about crunching these numbers, but the Rapids have to be the youngest team in MLS, if not if they're not the youngest team, they have to be like second or third.
Right up
youngest team. This is a young squad, and I'm hoping that the youth on the squad means a healthier squad. The young players, the injuries aren't as much of an issue that we've been dealing with for a couple of years. But they've also got that high motor. I think that youth is going to play well with the altitude. And it sets the stage to grow and build something truly strong, like you were saying, with Portland. And, it's year 1 of this retooled Rapids. This is a completely new team with some familiar faces, from last year. But the look and the way that this team is going to play is going to be very, very new.
Quick question from Matthew. Are Galvan and Ronan the only fathers left on the squad now? No. Max, who I think is the dad as well.
Gosh, I don't even know that.
I think he's a father, if I remember correctly. But besides that, maybe. Not J. Lou.
I don't think so.
No, honestly, they might be. Because even Keegan, who's a little bit up there, doesn't have a child, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
Because Beta's gone now, too.
Yeah. I think they still need that young, sorry, I'm like, they need that veteran leadership. I'm still a little tired.
That is the one. That is the one area when we look at the squad that when I think about it, I'm like, are we missing that veteran piece? I mean, we have Keegan. I think, dude, if you don't know Keegan Rosenberry, like that dude is so smart. It is silly. Like that guy is so heady with soccer. The way his brain moves, and if you talk to him about strategy, he's there. Like, he's got that veteran presence. He's got that veteran wisdom. I don't know what his relationships are like with the younger guys, but like Keegan is probably that guy now. But you do wonder, like, we don't have Diego anymore. We don't have Jack anymore. And those were kind of those cornerstones of like veteran, you know. I mean, we saw last year, we talked about, we were laughing at how when Rubio was downstairs and Ollie was downstairs, like everyone was kind of like watching World Cup and like hanging out, and like Rubio's grilling Ollie on where his brain is, thinking about the season, what he's working on. And, you know, it's wonder with all of this youth, is there going to be that guy who kind of becomes the veteran, the old grizzly veteran, and to lead the kids, you know?
I mean, and the other thing is also, you need I think this team has a bunch of leaders right now. I think Maxu's a leader. I think Ronan's a leader. I think Cole's a leader. I think we're missing an asshole. I think we need an asshole transplant into
Jasper,
this team.
maybe.
But we need an asshole who's willing to get under people's skin. Like, not just being aggressive, being a guy that can yell. Rubio was that.
Yeah, you mean a guy who can not opposition skin, but our own guy's skin.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Like, this guy, as long as he's on the pitch, your own teammates are going to be like, fuck.
Yeah.
Like, that's what we need. Like, we need somebody that can be out there grilling guys, just being like, getting under their skin. And I think this team's going to be set to be an evil empire for a while. And I hope that's our left back. If we can get a left back that can just yell at guys and be an absolute a-hole, or a six that could be an absolute a-hole, I think this team's going to be super fun to watch for the next.
It could be Maxu.
Yeah,
I mean, he was pretty pissed off at the end of last season because of how things were going. Yeah. Like, and he was very expressive in that. So he could be that guy to kind of get after some of the young guys and
I also
push
just
them.
want to see Maxu score again. His celebration was the most passionate celebration I saw when he scored that kick that kind of just fell into his foot on that corner. That's one of my favorite celebrations. Him just yelling, like, it's so much fun, dude. Like, those are the best. So kind of going, looking, we've kind of looked at the Rapids, all the moves they made, and how the roster's looking right now. And in my opinion, I think the roster's in a really good spot going into 2024. A team that can actually compete. I won't put my name on them winning anything. But where does this team stack up compared to the rest of the MLS in their offseason? I think the Rapids might be the most active team in the transfer market so far.
I think they're certainly among the top. I mean, they might be at the top for just number of moves in general, but that's because of where they were. So I think they're certainly at the top. I mean, hey, look at the Rapids. We're getting attention from, you know, Tom Bogert and Extra Time, and you know, National Soccer News is talking Rapids because of the moves we're making, and because of the number of moves we're making. So I certainly think that the Rapids as a club are among the top for putting in the work to try to fix the problems of 2023. The other squad that really stands out to me, or other club, is the exact opposite of the Rapids, and that's Cincinnati. This is a club that finished at the top and also went into the offseason only doing things to make themselves better. So I look at these two clubs and, you know, one finished at the top, one finished at the bottom. Both are making significant moves to improve the squad on the field. I don't know, just those two teams to me, and I've been watching both because their storylines are so different. Yeah. Cincinnati is, we were awesome, but we couldn't, we didn't make it happen at the end. Like, we missed the prize by one game. Yep. And so we're fixing that to get to the end goal. The Rapids are, man, everything that could have gone wrong over the last two seasons did. Fan favorites, injured and gone, coaching change, Just some terrible soccer, second to last in the conference, and or second to last. Were we last in the conference? Second to last.
Last in the conference, second
to
last
in the league. So yeah. So I want to make sure I get that right. You know, and their storyline is more of a, you know, Rapids rising. You know, this is the new squad. This is the new generation of Rapids, because this past era, which was really highlighted with kind of that first, you know, it really the Padraig run, right?
Yep.
Where we had guys like Jack Price and Diego Rubio and Keegan and Cole and Sammy Vines, who, you know, start out homegrown or successful, go away. You know, Vines still out there. Cole Bassett comes back. You know, just all these players that over the past 7 years that have been that identity of the Rapids. You have the Rapids way, love it or hate it. Personally, not a fan. You know, but just because just manifestos in general to me or whatever, just get the job done. I don't need flowery words for it, you know, but
It's
that
branding,
era,
Duane. You're all about branding.
I know, but that's not my kind of brand. Like the branding doesn't, if it doesn't work, move away from it.
But if it had worked, everybody would be
Yes,
rocking that shirt that
right.
says the Rapids way.
Right, but it didn't. So, you know, there's no what ifs in branding. Like, it either did or it didn't. And so, but it was that whole era. And I feel like 2024 is the beginning of a new era. It is a new Rapids. Yes, there are some faces that are the same, but there are a whole lot of new ones. There seems to be a different strategy of what's going to be running on the pitch. The off-season strategy is certainly different. I can't remember a time where we've been, the
So
front office
active?
has been so active in cooking this hard. I just can't remember a time where there's just so many constant moves and names swirling around. So it just feels like a different time.
It also feels like kind of stacking it up this year. I think it's fair to include last year's a little bit. Because if you look at the major signings from last year from Padraig, who was it? It was Ronan, Maxu,
Sure.
Gershbach, and Cabral, right?
Yep.
You hit on two of those four guys.
Yeah, Maxu and Ronan, you know, are going to be here for some time.
But that kind of sets a platform to jump into a better offseason this year. You had a horrible season, don't get me wrong. But having those two guys fills two holes that you don't have to go get. Now you got to go get a left back and a left winger because Cabral and Gershbach didn't work out. But having those two guys who I think are more important positions in the team really kind of sets the platform for this. But when we look at this offseason by itself, I think it has to be number one. And the only reason I put it number one compared to every other MLS team is because I feel like Galaxy still has a lot to do to fill a lot of their holes. They've made some nice moves. I like the Japanese winger they got. I thought he was a great signing.
I know. I wanted him so bad.
I thought he was a great signing. You look at FC Cincinnati, and I think they lost their second best player or third best player in Brandon Vazquez. And that brings them down a little bit. Now, they are getting Corey Bird, who had a better season than Brandon Vazquez last year. But I still think what Brandon does with Lucho is something that's going to take a while to replicate with Corey Bird. And that's why I kind of have to push them down below the Rapids. Now, Miles Robinson is a huge addition. Huge addition. But you look at that backline, and they also lost Mosquera. Because the Wolves are your Wolves. Don't want to sell him back. Didn't want to extend the loan. And it was a huge transfer fee that they were not willing to pay. I feel like you're just kind of what you're losing.
I think
kind of
Corey
getting
Barrett
back.
is going to be really good with Cincinnati.
Don't get me wrong, I do too. But the way Lucho plays, it might take a bit for him to get adjusted.
Yeah,
it always does. To
I don't think it's going to make him better. I think it's going to make Corey Baird better when he comes in. Like, that's the thing. Him pairing up with the other two is going to make him so much better. And that is scary, dangerous.
It's a good addition.
On the wing. Yeah. Like, that's very scary.
I think it's a really good addition.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Like, I still like the addition.
Yeah, I'm not worried about them because
they're not in our conference, of course.
I'm just saying they're making moves the same way that we are. It's just they're starting out from here. Their story is already at the top, and they're kind of at the ending of that book.
Yeah.
For this era, or at least in the middle, if they're going to keep continuing
they still need to win it.
But I feel like
a storybook ending, right?
our book is closed, and now it's the next book in the series is starting to open.
Of course, but then you also kind of look at the Western Conference. LAFC has this whole Dennis Bwanga.
I know, love that drama.
That's like putting a big dent on their plans for next year.
Yeah, blow it up. Love that.
Like they might like Ile. Honestly, man, go get Sanchez Ile. Like he's in his mid-30s, he can be your new Jack for the next year or two. Great leader, can play the six. I know Mitch Potter is a big fan of that, but they're kind of having issues and they don't know what's going on over there. Austin FC is kind of taking the Rapids route and trying to get value players, like the Rapids route of the last couple years, where you're trying to get value in lower leagues and see if you can find some gems hidden after they also had a really bad year. So you kind of look at the Western Conference, who you should be worried about. And I feel like there's really good teams in this side of the conference, but I don't feel like there's teams that are making as many moves to improve like the Rapids. So if we're just looking at the offseason itself, in the Western Conference, Rapids have to be number one. Now you extend it to the league. I think there's only one team that can compete with them, and that's FC Cincinnati. Yeah. But they have way more major losses than the Rapids do, which brings them down. And if you're going by addition, like, it's not addition by subtraction for Cincinnati, because they're not losing players that were taking up DP spots and weren't good. They're not losing a player that didn't want to be there and it's causing a locker room distraction. They're losing high-end players like a Brandon Vazquez, who was touted in Europe, who's now going to Mexico, which shout out Monterrey for getting rid of Funes Mori. Do not like that guy, but damn, is he a baller. They're getting rid of a player like Mosquera, who you wanted to keep, but you just can't keep because Wolves said, hey, he did really good for you guys. We want him back. Yeah. Like, why would you let him keep our good players without an option to buy or nothing? At the end of the day, I think the Rapids are right up there. And when I look at a team like San Jose, who just lost one of their top players in Kate Cowell, which he should have gone to Europe. I'm okay with him going to Chivas, mostly because I like Chivas. I think the only other team that can compete with the Rapids and how good they are in CONCACAF and how many good moves they've made, it's going to be Chivas. Chivas has overhauled their whole squad, just like the Rapids, because they had a season that they didn't like. And I think the Rapids and Chivas, how Kevin Trujillo said, are going to be in the finals of Leagues Cup because they really want that thing. They're going for the depth. And then you still have rumors coming out of a Juninho. You have the six out in Europe who's been rumored. And you also have Lalo Torres. And there's still so much room for improvement that it's kind of hard not to look at this team and think they're going to improve or think that they didn't have one of the better off seasons from all of CONCACAF, in my opinion. When you look from Canada to the U.S. to Mexico, all the way down to Costa Rica and Guatemala, like, it's really hard not to look at the Rapids and say, you guys are becoming one of the top tier teams this offseason, at least on paper and the moves you're trying to make. So, at the end of the day, to me, it's, if I'm grading this Rapids offseason, it's an A, a B plus to an A, because we don't know until
we won't know for months now, but they're making moves. Yeah, and that's awesome. What a nice change.
Yeah, it's really fun. Nice. It's nice to be a Rapids fan. You know what I mean? So if I were to grade this podcast, I'd give it a solid B plus to an A as well. I think we did a great job. I just lower a grade because of our transitions. Duane just distracted me with his beauty on set today.
Don't punish me for
we're grading on a curve if you like it or not.
Yeah.
Before we head out, guys, don't forget to follow us on DNV_Rapids. Interact with us. Give us a like. We really appreciate all that. Also, give us a 5-star review wherever you hear this podcast. It's also a podcast, which I forget to mention every time. If you can't watch us live, listen to us on your favorite platform. That's always a great way to catch up with us as well. And give us a like on this video, too. Likes is what fuels me to be the best man in the world.
Wow.
Duane?
Bold statement.
Anything else to add?
Jump in to the full DNVR experience. Become a DNVR diehard. Jump online and figure out how to do that. We talk about it every week, but there's discounts to all of the events that we do, discounts in the bar, member exclusives for apparel, and also member exclusive events that happen with your favorite teams, whether that be with players, coaches, other people, all kinds of reasons to jump on board. It's the beginning of the season. We're going to be doing some DNVR Rapids events both here and at the stadium this season. So it's the perfect time to get on board and become a DNVR diehard. And outside of that, that's how we end it.
I'll let you say
every time. It's in the comments. Everybody knows it's up the PIDs.
We all silly like the mayor.